NFL Week 15 wrapped up a couple days ago. Let's take a look at the recap of the games that happened. Thursday Night Football, the Seahawks lost in overtime to the Texans, 34-31. The Texans were down by 14 going into the fourth quarter. They came back and won the game. Both quarterbacks had very solid nights and threw over 40 pass attempts in this game. Hopkins and Baldwin were the leading receivers. The only turnover was a Deshaun Watson interception. Then the Saturday NFL games, the Giants went to Baltimore and almost came away with a big upset against the Baltimore Ravens. Joe Flacco with a nice day threw an interception. Manning threw 2 interceptions. The Ravens go to 9-5 and can still win the AFC North. The Giants are now definitely out of playoff contention with the loss to Baltimore. The Ravens play the Bengals next week. That'll be a big game for them. The final Saturday game, the Lions went to Lambeau Field and got smoked by the Packers. The Packers, their best offensive performance of the year. Rodgers, 373 yards. Montgomery, 138 rushing yards. The Packers had over 500 yards of offense. They go to 11-3, and a win next week clinches them a spot in the playoffs. They play the Titans on Christmas. The Lions are already eliminated from playoff contention. Now to the Sunday games. The Jags went to Indianapolis and they beat the Colts 31-13. The Colts got the best of them 2 weeks ago, but Brissett now has a very inaccurate game. Blake Bortles 4 touchdown passes in this game. Jacksonville 9-5 and will win the division as long as they win next week and Tennessee loses next week. They can clinch that division. Big game for Marquise Lee. The Rams hosting the 49ers in a very defensive game, 14-3. Both defenses came at their best. The Rams 3 picks on Jimmy Garoppolo, who may not be the starter next week. But Jared Goff didn't have the best game, 165 yards through the air and a touchdown, and he had an interception of his own. The Rams got 2 sacks in the game. San Francisco with 2 sacks as well, and neither offense was very productive. The Browns almost got their first win of the season. They lose 21-20 at MetLife against the Jets, but the Jets are 5-9 all of a sudden. A very decent team this year. The Browns are still winless, but Sean Kaiser's best game. A good day for Josh McCown. His stats are not up there for some reason. Powell did not throw, so that's my bad. It was Josh McCown. The Saints go to Denver and they beat the Broncos in Mile High 30-14. All the Broncos' points came in the second quarter. They got shut out the other 3. Simeon with a decent day through the air, got over 200 yards through the air. Drew Brees, another solid day for him. He's the front runner for MVP, him and Jared Goff, with just now 2 weeks to go in the regular season. The Saints, a win next week, clinches them the NFC South. The Panthers play the Cardinals. They won 28-24 in a closer game with Arizona. The Cardinals were on a 2-game winning streak that got snapped with a loss to Carolina. Panthers are 8-6, but they have very slim chances to make the playoffs. They have to win next week against New Orleans if they want to still have a chance, along with everybody else losing. Carson Palmer, another solid day, but the Cardinals are 5-9, already eliminated, but they're going to try and finish at least 7-9 in the rest of the season. The Vikings, they sweep the Bears. They beat them 38-14. The Bears score 14 against Minnesota in both matchups. As Trubisky with an interception, but he did have a rushing touchdown. Case Keenum on a solid day. As Minnesota can have a chance to win the division as long as they win and the Packers also win or they lose. They lose next week and they win. They take the lead in the NFC North. The Cowboys went to Washington on a drizzling day in Landover, Maryland, but the Cowboys smoke them 34-7 as Kirk Cousins questions if he'll come back to the Redskins next season. 4-10 this season. Cousins only 180 passing yards. Prescott 3 passing touchdowns in this one. None of them to Des Bryant, but Bryant had 108 receiving yards as Jordan Reed had a touchdown for the Redskins. A rainy day in Heinz Field saw the Bills upsetting the Steelers 27-17, and now Buffalo can sneak back into a playoff position. And man, this team looks pretty decent. Tyrod Taylor's been playing very nicely the last couple of weeks. The Steelers' offense has been sluggish the last couple of weeks. And Pittsburgh, they have a couple of harder matchups, including that big Week 17 matchup against Baltimore that can determine who wins the AFC North. America's Game of the Week was a downpour in Philadelphia again for the third week in a row, but Philly hangs on in the rain 20-7 against the Falcons, who could be eliminated from playoff contention with the loss to the Bills next week. Very rough day for Matt Ryan, worst of the year. Carson Wentz did a decent job. They didn't have to throw too much, but they ultimately threw both over 30 times as the weather started to calm down in the second half of the game. The Chiefs went 34-21, and with a win, they clinched the AFC West for the second year in a row, and the Bengals are now eliminated from playoff contention. Smith with a good day. He had a rushing touchdown as well. Andy Dalton threw for 3 touchdowns and a pick. And Kareem Hunt, another good day on the ground. He's a contender for Offensive Rookie of the Year, but the Chiefs can get the bye if they win and Pittsburgh loses next week. Winds got up to 20 miles an hour in Foxborough, and the Patriots won 28-0 against the Dolphins in this game, as Brady didn't have to throw much, and if so, short passes, and Burke had 2 rushing touchdowns for the Patriots. Cutler threw for 59 yards and 2 interceptions, so Alex Moore came in, and Moore will be the starter next week for the Dolphins, Saturday versus the Bears. But the Patriots go to 13-1 on the season. Sunday Night Football, the Raiders and the Chargers. The Raiders win 17-16 in a close game against the Chargers. But Phillip Rivers, 3 interceptions in this game. The Raiders' defense was on point. Derek Carr threw an interception, but nonetheless, a big win for Oakland, and they can clinch a playoff spot with the win against the Browns next week. The Chargers have to play the Rams at home next week. That'll be a tough one for them. And then the final game of Week 15, Monday Night Football, the Titans went to Tampa Bay and smoked the Buccaneers 38-17, a great game for the Tennessee Titans, the best they've looked all season long. They're still in the playoff race. Mariota, 307 yards through the air, an excellent day for him. Derrick Henry with a career night, 3 rushing touchdowns and a 63-yard reception. Fitzpatrick, a rough day for him, a touchdown, 2 interceptions through the air, was 50% through the air as well. As the AFC standings, New England, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Baltimore, and Oakland. The Bills and the Titans are the only teams that can make a playoff run. Tennessee has to play Green Bay on Christmas Day. That'll be tough. And the Bills have to play the Falcons on the road, so 2 tough games for those teams beneath the cut line. Baltimore plays Cincinnati, and Oakland plays the Browns. In the NFC, the Eagles and the Packers, a win next week clinches them a playoff spot. The Saints can clinch a playoff spot. If Seattle loses, the Rams clinch a playoff spot, and the Seahawks will be eliminated. But the Falcons and Cowboys, Seahawks, Falcons, all right there in the mix, with the Panthers hanging in on the outskirts. This is American Sports Coverage, signing off.